I never believed betrayal would come from the man whose name I carried. My husband, Daniel Whitmore, was once the center of my world, a respected businessman, charming, confident, the kind of man people trusted instantly. For 10 years, I stood beside him, sacrificing my career, my comfort, even my pride to build our home. Or at least, what I thought was our home. That illusion shattered the night I discovered the truth. It was raining heavily when I returned early from visiting my mother. My phone had died, and I decided to surprise Daniel. As I entered the house, laughter echoed from upstairs, a woman's laughter. My heart froze. I climbed the stairs slowly, every step heavier than the last. The bedroom door was half open, and there he was, my husband, tangled in silk sheets with another woman. She was young, confident, smiling like she had already won. Daniel looked at me, not with guilt, not with shame, but with annoyance. "Why are you home early?" he snapped. That question hurt more than the scene itself. "I'm your wife," I whispered. "This is my home." The woman stood up calmly, draping herself in a robe. "Daniel," she said softly, "you told me she wouldn't cause problems." That was the moment I realized this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. Cast out like nothing. That night, Daniel didn't beg. He didn't explain. He gave me an ultimatum. "Sign the divorce papers quietly," he said coldly, "or things will get ugly." I laughed through tears. "You think I'll walk away with nothing after everything I gave you?" His eyes darkened. "You gave me nothing. You're replaceable." The next morning, he changed the locks. No warning, no conversation. I stood outside in the rain with one suitcase, watching 10 years of my life vanish behind a closed door. But fate hadn't finished with me yet. The night everything broke. A week later, Daniel called. "I'll meet you," he said. "We'll settle this once and for all." We met at an empty parking garage, his territory, his rules. I demanded my rightful share. He laughed. "You think you deserve anything?" he said. "You were just a decorative wife." I turned to leave. That's when it happened. He grabbed my arm. I lost balance. I fell. The pain was immediate, sharp, blinding, unbearable. My leg was twisted unnaturally. Daniel looked down at me, not with fear, but irritation. "This is your fault. You shouldn't have pushed me." And then he walked away, leaving me screaming on cold concrete. Broken body, unbroken faith. At the hospital, the doctor confirmed it. My leg was shattered. Surgery, months of recovery, medical bills piling up. Alone, abandoned. That night, lying in a hospital bed, I stared at the ceiling and whispered a prayer I hadn't said in years. "God, if you still see me, please don't let this pain be meaningless." Tears soaked my pillow. I had lost my husband, my home, my dignity. But what Daniel didn't know, what no one knew, was that I wasn't truly alone, because my father was not an ordinary man. The call that changed everything. With trembling fingers, I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in over a decade. "Dad," I whispered when he answered. There was silence. Then his voice, steady, powerful, and filled with restrained emotion. "Stay where you are," he said. "I'm coming." That was the moment the balance of power shifted. Daniel thought he had destroyed me. He had no idea. He had just awakened a force that would change everything. I heard the hum of my father's car pull up outside the hospital. The sound was more comforting than any words could have been. Dad had always been a quiet man, but everyone who knew him knew power. Not the kind that comes from money or titles, but influence, respect, and a network that could move mountains. When he walked into the room, he didn't rush to comfort me. He didn't ask about my pain. He looked at me, the fire in my eyes meeting the storm in his. "Daniel Whitmore has made a mistake," he said simply. I swallowed hard. "Dad, it's over. He broke my leg. He doesn't care about me anymore." He shook his head. "No, he doesn't know what he's started. Faith brought you through the fall, and now it will guide justice." I didn't understand fully, but I felt a strange surge of hope. My father had always been a believer in miracles, not just prayer, but the kind of divine timing where every act of injustice finds its consequence. Daniel's mistress begins to feel the cracks. Back at their luxurious penthouse, Daniel sat smugly with the mistress he thought he had won. Her name was Selena, sharp, calculating, and dangerously confident. But something had shifted. Phone calls began arriving, anonymous tips, a sudden inspection notice from the corporate board, emails exposing financial misconduct. "Who's doing this?" Selena asked, her voice trembling. Daniel scoffed. "Probably nothing. It's just coincidence." But deep down, fear had crept in. Fear that his carefully built empire and his new life with Selena were far more fragile than he ever imagined. The miracle that changed the game. Meanwhile, I was learning to walk again. The doctors said months, but I prayed every night, my faith guiding me. Every small step I took became a symbol of strength, a silent message to Daniel: I am not defeated. And then the miracle happened. An anonymous investor contacted me. A major business opportunity, one that could rival Daniel's empire. Dad smiled when he saw the news. "Your husband chose his mistress, but you've chosen your future. Faith always opens the door when courage knocks." The pieces were falling into place. Daniel assumed he had all the power, but he didn't see the storm brewing beneath the surface, a storm fueled by justice, faith, and the unwavering love of a father. The first warning. One night, Daniel received a cryptic message on his private line. "Your time of arrogance is over. What you've done will find you." He laughed. "It's a prank," he told Selena. But the corporate board didn't laugh. The first audit was harsh. Financial discrepancies that had gone unnoticed for years were suddenly under the microscope. Investors began to doubt. Rumors of fraud spread like wildfire. Selena's confidence crumbled. Daniel's empire, built on deceit and betrayal, began to shake. A daughter's faith, a father's power. I visited the penthouse, not to plead, not to cry. I stood there, crutches in hand, dignity intact. Daniel's eyes widened. How are you here?" My father stepped beside me. His presence alone was commanding, suffocating, unyielding. "Consider this your first lesson. Power is not taken, it is earned and respected. You took mine for granted." Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came. Selena looked ready to flee. The balance had shifted, and I realized something profound. Faith gave me strength, and my father's power ensured justice. This was only the beginning. The first cracks in Daniel's carefully constructed life had begun, but I knew the real reckoning was yet to come. With my father's guidance, I didn't just heal my leg, I rebuilt myself. Every therapy session, every painful step became a symbol. I wasn't the woman he tried to break. I was stronger, wiser, and ready. Daniel's world starts to collapse. Daniel tried to ignore the mounting pressure, but fate has a way of catching up. Investors withdrew, terrified of the growing scandal. Key employees resigned, refusing to be associated with someone whose reputation was tarnishing the company. The media caught wind of his private life, sensationalizing his betrayal and cruelty. Selena, once confident and untouchable, began to panic. Rumors of her involvement in corporate manipulation leaked. Her social media turned into a battlefield of public outrage. Daniel called her one night, desperate. "Selena, I can fix this. We can fight it together," he begged. She hung up. Fear had replaced love. The miracle that turned the tide. Meanwhile, I received news that changed everything. A philanthropist I had met during my recovery wanted to invest in my new business, one designed to help women betrayed and abandoned, giving them independence and power. It was more than money. It was a divine opportunity, a miracle forged from pain. The business grew fast, capturing headlines. People admired my courage, my faith, my ability to rise from betrayal stronger than ever. Daniel had expected me to disappear quietly. Instead, I became a symbol, a living testament that faith and resilience can move mountains. The confrontation. Finally, the day came. Daniel tried to confront me publicly, thinking he could intimidate me back into fear. We met at a charity event where I was speaking about empowerment and resilience. He stepped onto the stage beside me, smirking. "People think I've wronged you. Maybe you've grown, but—" I turned to him, my leg healed, my posture commanding, my voice steady. "No, Daniel," I said, "you wronged yourself. You thought power meant dominance. You thought betrayal meant victory. But faith and courage will always defeat arrogance." The crowd erupted in applause. The whispers began. Daniel Whitmore, the man who abandoned his wife, had been publicly shamed. Investors pulled out. His empire was collapsing. Selena avoided the event entirely, knowing she had backed the wrong horse. Justice and faith prevailed. By the end of the year, Daniel lost control of his company. Selena disappeared from the social scene. My business thrived, helping hundreds of women rebuild their lives. My father's power remained a quiet shield, ensuring no further harm could come to me. But the most important victory wasn't financial or social, it was spiritual and emotional. I had survived betrayal, injury, and humiliation. My faith, once dormant, had become a guiding light. My father's power, once a legend whispered about, had become a reality I could lean on when justice seemed impossible. Daniel Whitmore had made a choice, and I had made one too, to rise, stronger and unbroken. The lesson: sometimes life breaks you, literally, figuratively, and spiritually. But it also gives you the chance to rebuild. Faith transforms pain into purpose. Power, when used with love and justice, protects the innocent. And betrayal becomes the fuel for your rise. As I stood at the pinnacle of my recovery, I knew one thing. I was free, strong, and unstoppable. And Daniel would never forget the price of his arrogance. The months following Daniel's downfall were surreal. My life had transformed from despair into power, purpose, and peace. I had rebuilt my body, my confidence, and my legacy. Every woman who came to my organization reminded me why I had endured the pain. Betrayal wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Daniel's final fall. Daniel Whitmore, once untouchable, now faced the full weight of his choices. Court documents revealed his embezzlement and manipulation. Investors who had blindly followed him now testified against him. The mistress, Selena, vanished completely, leaving him exposed and alone. He tried to reach me one last time, calling late at night. His voice was desperate. "I made a mistake. Please, I can fix this," he begged. I didn't respond. I had no words for a man who had chosen arrogance over love, betrayal over trust. Justice didn't need my voice, it was already unfolding. The miracle moment. One evening, I was invited to speak at a women's empowerment gala. Hundreds of people filled the auditorium, eager to hear my story. I spoke about faith, resilience, and miracles, how pain, when faced with courage, transforms into power. Halfway through, a woman in the audience stood up. Tears in her eyes, she said, "You saved me. Your story gave me hope when I thought my life was over." That moment hit me harder than any victory over Daniel ever could. This was the true triumph, turning personal pain into collective hope. A father's pride. Later, my father came backstage. He didn't need words. His pride was clear in his eyes. "You've done more than survive," he said softly. "You've risen. You've transformed weakness into strength, and that's more powerful than any empire Daniel could have built." I hugged him, realizing that faith and family had been my greatest allies all along. Rebuilding life, love, and faith. Over the next year, my business flourished internationally. I began mentoring women who had faced betrayal and trauma. Daniel Whitmore disappeared from headlines entirely, a cautionary tale of arrogance and greed. And I found love, not the shallow, manipulative kind, but a partner who respected faith, family, and integrity. Faith had healed my broken body, justice had humbled the man who once tried to destroy me, and my father's power ensured I stood unshaken. The lesson for all. Life may break you, betray you, even humiliate you, but miracles exist for those who have faith, patience, and courage. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most teach you the greatest lessons. Never settle for less than respect. Never lose faith in yourself, and never doubt that justice finds a way. I had walked through fire, shattered by betrayal, and emerged unbroken, unstoppable, and triumphant. Daniel Whitmore made his choice. I made mine, and that difference changed everything.